Hello and welcome to a Clwb Pel-Droed YouTube channel. Today we are delighted to be joined by a special guest in sport photographer John Smith. John, how are you keeping, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. Bit tired. As you've probably seen, I've shot like about 9 domestic games in the last 12 days, so I haven't got a clue what day it is either.
So John is the official photographer for the FAW. He's been shooting at games, as he just said, up and down the country recently. So we're going to go right back to the start, John. How did you get into photography originally?
To be fair, it's not that long ago, really. It was I was talking to my missus about this the other day. It's only probably been about 5 years since I actually picked up or bought a serious camera. Looking back though, thinking, how it all started kind of thing. I was always generally one of those people that would take photos at events or out with me and my mates, or I'd end up making like videos generally of a party or a festival you went to, and I've did that for years, even off camera phones and stuff. And then when I eventually then bought, could have had enough money, then I bought a digital ASR. Bought a little what was it, like a 70D, I think it was at the time. Nothing really special, but it was about 5 years ago. And then it was just a case of taking I think one of the first things I did was take it on to football, to be fair, at a local Merthyr Town game. And I think it was pretty much, it was like, funny enough, the head of international at Wales, he's a Merthyr fan as well. And he was like, well, why don't you bring it down Merthyr and we take some photos of the fans? So it was literally, that was my first thing, is taking photos of Merthyr fans really with my camera. And then from there, it all just kind of progressed to now, it's just gone from job to job to job. And it's been pretty crazy considering it's only been 5 years,
So when you're shooting at a match, do you have any routines before the game at all or during the game?
So yeah, I generally try and get, I've been doing it for obviously, a good couple of years now. So you do get into certain routines and you know what kind of works and stuff, and you know what people want. So generally I try to get there really early, and just to see, normally you would get there to catch the fans coming in, but it's been kind of difficult this year, there's no fans. But get there early, get fans coming through the gate, get the players arriving, get the players warming up, send photos off. So if you're working for someone, if you're working for a sports photography agency, you would get those kind of photos, those images up, just so media outlets can maybe use them quite early. And then from there, I always tend to try and get stuff done in the first half time, full time, updates off. So they tend to, whether it's Wales or it's like last night down at Haverfordwest, it's generally the same process throughout. It's always the kind of same timeline you would have. But yeah, get there early, get the fans coming in normally, or even if it's just like the odd steward or someone watching with the pitch, catching that early atmosphere of the game. But that's generally how it kind of goes, and setting up as well. So if you've got 2 or 3 cameras, you want to try and get there early enough to set all that up before anything happens,
You mentioned that you were taking pictures of fans at Merthyr. I've seen you've also been taking pictures at Wales games of fans as well.
Yeah.
In your opinion, how important is it to capture fan culture at football games?
Massive. To be fair, I did the fans at Merthyr, but then I obviously, I got caught up in the whole, got to get the action, got to get photos of players, etc. And I did that at Merthyr for quite a while. But I always found that the fan photos would get more interest online, if you will. So, you post one of someone scoring or whatever, everyone's loving it. But you post someone of, the old gentleman sitting in the same stand that he's been sitting in for the last 10 years, with a Merthyr hat on or whatever, and people engage more with that, I found. And I think that tells, in some ways, there's more stories going on in the terracing than there is on the pitch. The same people that arrive in the same spots and sing the same songs, and what they're eating, what they're wearing. I think all of that is fan culture, and it really means a lot. And I find it's those kind of stories are talked about and more interesting than most things that go on the pitch, every Saturday. And there's a photographer, he's a friend of mine, and he works so when Saturday comes, and like I didn't know about him when I started doing it at Merthyr, and then I found out when Saturday comes, and I found out, you know, his work. Colin McPherson, his name is, and he just does it perfectly. Like, so he'd turn up at a game and he'll photograph fans, stadium, you know, outside the stadium, whatever's happening on the pitch, you barely even see a photo of it. It's just more that kind of fan culture, and I think that's just even more important than anything that's happening on the field, you know.
In terms of match day as well, you know, we're in an age now with social media and technology. How much of an emphasis is there on immediacy and working really quickly on match day?
Yeah, well, it differs in a way. You know, if you're on an assignment, for example, you know, and you just want to take photos of the fans and stuff like that, you know, not so much. You know, that kind of stuff can be done and edited after. I think it depends on the importance of it. You know, so if you're working for a sports photography agency, which I have done from time to time, and I do at the moment for one, those photos, anything like that needs to be sent off quickly. You know, that if anything, the speed of how you can send a photo off these days is more important than the actual photo, which is crazy. You know, it's about getting it out there, and so, you know, media outlets have it to use, and obviously then it then depends on who you're shooting for as well. So if it's Wales, for example, first team, and you got you know, Nico Williams scoring against Bulgaria in the last 5 minutes, you know, the media team at FAW do a fantastic job getting that stuff out there. But, you know, they tell me there's no pressure to get it to them quickly, but they want it quick, you know. So yeah, definitely it needs to be out there as quick as possible, you know. And
you spoke about pressure. Is there pressure on the job, especially for, you know, the big Wales games?
Yeah, you know, I remember, like, I've only been obviously involved with the senior team this year, and so like the last 3 camps, so it's only been a short amount of time, and you know, I was super nervous, as you can imagine, for on my first day and whatever, and the media team and the people we work with and whatever, they're like, oh, you know, don't worry about it, you do it all the time. And you know, in a sense I do. So, you know, as much as they say there's no pressure on it, and there isn't any pressure, you kind of get worked up, but you know, if you've got your Nico Williams or your Gareth Bale scoring, you know, in the last 5 minutes, and you're the only photographer there for Wales, and you don't get that shot, yeah, you know, there's massive pressure. So you've got to make sure your kit is in order. You know, you've got to make sure you're prepared. You're always watching the game. You've got to find out what's happening when. Again, but at the same time, you've got to get photos off, and you've got to get them off quickly, and you've got to get them off correctly. And so, yeah, there is an element of pressure, but, you know, that's what it's like, you know. But then there's other things like futsal and stuff like that, but there's less pressure because it's not as intense and whatever, but it just depends on who you're shooting for, really, yeah.
You spoke about your role for Wales. How did that come about?
So I think it was probably, which is weird because it is such a short time. It was only 4 years ago. I had a call from my friend at Merthyr. He said, you know, literally phones me now. It was for the Home Nations 2016 Home Nations futsal, and he's like, don't fancy by this time I've probably been shooting now for about a year, maybe, at Merthyr games, and I've bought a little bit more equipment and whatever, and I started taking a little bit more serious. He's like, do you fancy taking photos of futsal? And I was like, what is futsal? Like, no idea what that is. I was like, I was working full time at the time, and I was like, I can only make it, you know, Saturday and Sunday. He's like, that's fine, don't worry about the Friday, just come down for the Saturday and Sunday. And that was my first introduction to futsal, and the first ever kind of gig, if you will, for the FAW. And then from there, I pretty much followed and been the futsal photographer for Wales for the last 4 years. You know, been in places like Macedonia and Moldova, Austria, Scotland, England, Ireland, tournaments all over Europe. And then along that time, then you just get to know people in the FAW and how they work, how they operate, and picking up other jobs here and there. And then the opportunity for the first team came up earlier this year, and they asked me if I wanted it, which is obviously a no-brainer. But I in a million years never thought that would happen. You know, there's a million other photographers out there which I personally think are better than me. You know, I've only been doing it for such a short time in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, you know, you've got to take those opportunities with both hands. You know, you only come along, you know, once or twice in a lifetime. So yeah, that's basically in a nutshell how it happened, you know.
So what's been your best experience so far being the Wales photographer?
As you know, as I said, it's only been a short amount of time, really. You know, it's only been 3 camps. In a way, in a really crazy way, I'm quite glad that the Euros didn't happen. So it's given me that this year to kind of get to know everyone and get comfortable with everyone. So obviously taking photos is it's difficult when people don't really know you. I'd say the best is just being involved in it, you know. And I think one of the in a whole grand scheme of it, I would say what we've kind of did media-wise for the futsal team in a way, because you know it's such a, especially in the UK, it's not a very well-known sport, and they don't have you know, the league is not the best in Wales. We are trying to improve it, but from a national point of view, you know, I went along taking photos that one weekend, and from there to the last time I met up with them, we're trying to do social media posts for them, the odd social media posts. We do videos every single day, highlight videos of every single day. We do photos for every staff, all the team, match updates, social, you know, they'll go out to social media just as much as any other squad in the seniors, in the Wales setup. They do get quite a bit of coverage these days. And so I'm quite proud of what we've kind of achieved that. I'd probably say that's one of the highlights. Ask me obviously next year, potentially, and after the Euros, and, you know, it could be completely different.
In your experiences, which players have been, you know, the best to work with?
You know, the futsal boys, I love working with, because obviously they're all good friends of mine now, because I've known them for so long, and I chat with them, you know, every couple of days, especially the staff. You know, some of them are really good friends of mine now. But in terms of first team, maybe in the short time that I've been involved, you know, people like your Rabi Matundo and Tom Lockyer, you know, good lads, really easygoing, just, you know, boys from Cardiff. You know, Rabi's such a, you know, he's just one of those boys who just constantly got a massive smile on his face. And, you know, we, as a media team, you need anything done on camp, Rabi will get Rabi, he'll do it. You know, so it's just the easygoing character of people like that, you know. But to be fair, they're all like that, you know. There's not a one bad person to work with. Everyone's, you know, pretty cool.
You've been to Wales away as a fan, you know, you watched them at the Euros 2016. How do you think travelling as a fan compares to how it will be next year at the Euros working?
To be fair, as a fan, obviously it's much more relaxed. You know, you get to, in a crazy way, you get to see more things as a fan, you know, especially now with COVID. It's just, and probably by the sounds of what was going on in 2016 as well, when you're on camp, you are in, you know, a bubble. That's without without the full bubble even come into it. You know, you are there, you maybe get, you know, a couple of walks outside and possibly a little, you know, coffee stop or whatever, but generally camps are, you know, you're there, you're together, it's quite serious, training media, match, training media. And that's the same with every squad, you know, futsal, football, you know, which any level is all very, very similar in the Wales setup. Everyone wears the same, everyone eats the same, everyone kind of dresses the same. You know, you have the same doctors, masseuses, and stuff like that. So as a fan, yeah, it is obviously a great experience. But again, working in that kind of environment as well is a different kind of great experience, you know. But to see both, you know, is going to be quite crazy in a way.
You spoke about working at the futsal. Do you see any direct differences when you're working between football and futsal?
To be fair, like I said, you know, there's not a massive amount. Obviously, one's indoor and one is outside with 11 people, and one is indoor in generally leisure centres or small arenas around Europe. But as I said, I think it's a testament to how FAW operate and the teams, because, you know, I've shot for the women, senior men's futsal. From what I can see, you know, and the little access that I have, is they operate very, very similar. You know, we all have, you know, a team doctors. You know, all right, the senior team might have 3 doctors. Futsal will have a doctor, 1 physio. Itinerary is the same. Everyone wears the same clothes. You know, the same leisure wear, the same tracksuits and stuff. So to be fair, you know, football, the first team is just a massively enhanced version of what futsal is in a way. A lot less pressure with the futsal because obviously it's a little bit more a smaller kind of team. But yeah, you know, I'd say throughout the whole, you know, system of how the FAW operate, it's very, very, very similar because, you know, it's all kind of, I think that's the way they want it. They want everyone to look the same, everyone dress the same itineraries, everyone to get the same treatment, if you will, you know.
Being away in Europe as well with Swansea Uni's Champions League campaign, how much of an experience was that? So
yeah, you know, one of the shame with that is generally when you qualify for the to play in Europe futsal, you win. By doing so, you win the National Futsal League. And normally what happens is in August, the team will go away and play like a mini tournament of 3 games. Obviously this time, because of COVID, it was just broken down into 1 game in November, you know, which was Poland, which was like 3 degrees. And you had to wear the mask everywhere with 1 game, and we flew in and flew out. But, you know, for them boys, it was a great experience. It's a big gut, and they didn't get the full experience of 3 games. For me, you know, again, I just approach every game pretty much the same. You know, where it doesn't really matter where it is, because you generally see a plane, a bus, a hotel, a leisure centre, a bus, a plane, and home. So it doesn't make that much of a difference. It was good because the two of the boys from Swansea are in the national set as well, which I know are good friends of mine now. To be fair, it was a shame they didn't get a result. The Polish champions out there, I think they beat Cardiff a couple of years ago, like 13-0 or something crazy. So to come away with 6-0, you know, it's pretty decent. And those boys are playing professional futsal week in, week out, where Swansea are a bunch of students, you know, which is crazy. So they did really well. And the other thing to mention as well is the you know, for such a small sport, and it's a testament to the FAW and how much support they give to it. You know, they ended up chartering a flight for those boys to go out there to play that fixture. Got everyone around the testing and stuff. So that, you know, the money that they spent to get those lads there, when you see funding being cut everywhere else, like the FA and everything, you know, it was a great thing that actually got to happen, and they got to fulfill that fixture. Just hopefully next year it goes back to normal, and whoever goes gets to play the 3 fixtures, you know.
Just to close, John, could you tell us what's your favourite Wales away trip been so far then, either as a fan or as, you know, a photographer?
Well, obviously going to the Euros as a fan was great. There was what, 3 or 4 of us, my best mates. We rented a camper van for 3 weeks and just went to like the group games. Never forget that. Probably actually saying that, my favourite ever Wales game, working or as a fan, was the Belgium home game. I think just before we qualified, or like we pretty much qualified or whatnot. I think that atmosphere was electric, and some of my friends are all, you know, 40, 50 plus year old men who've been following Wales all their life and never qualified. So they were crying, you know, grown men in tears, which I'll never forget. You know, it was such an amazing atmosphere. I don't think anyone sat down all game. It was electrifying. That was probably my best ever memory. In terms of, you know, working, you know, finishing top of the group in the Nations League, obviously that's quite recent, and that was, you know, and just having the opportunity to be involved in such a, you know, a great experience, and knowing obviously we've got the Euros coming up, you know, those kind of things. You know, it's just, again, like I said, amazing to be involved in something like that, you know.
Thank you so much for your time, John. When can people find you?
Well, everything on social media is same old Smith, because obviously John Smith is such a popular name. I thought I'd go for a bit of I need a bit of something to stand out. Or on Twitter is same old Smith with an S on the end, because someone had same old Smith. But yeah, give us a follow. Obviously I see you guys all the time doing obviously the domestic football, and that's another part of something that we're going to be doing a lot more of. Obviously the FAW really want to try and grow the media around domestic football, so you'll probably see me in a lot more games from here on out, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you, John.
Nice one, guys.